Collective Awakening podcast,
sharing truth and knowledge in this time of conscious awakening
with Chris and Stephen. Hello friends, and welcome to the Collective Awakening podcast. Absolute pleasure for this episode to welcome back Ayla Schafer. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us once again. It's wonderful to welcome you back for this episode.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. And I like the fancy intro that you've got now.
Oh, thank you.
We've upgraded a bit. We've got a lot bit better.
Yeah, little by little, each year we get our budget is upping slowly. But it's wonderful to have you back. We do have a couple of other episodes that we did actually. It was in the sort of early days, which is much appreciated, and we've got a great love for the music you create really here at the Purple Mountain, Ayla, and always have done. And anybody, I'm sure, who particularly works for how do I put this? How we first discovered your music was actually through having our first Campbell treatment. And I remember led back there feeling all sorts, well, not led back, but going through that, the height of that healing. And I could just hear this music being played. And I thought, my goodness, I've never heard music like this before. And there was other songs, and I thought, I've just never heard words like this before. And the first thing I had to do as soon as all was good and it'd been completed was ask our friend who was where's this music? Where'd you got it from? And then I find, particularly with that kind of music, the ceremonial music, whatever we want to call it, the plant medicine music, is that one song leads to another. And so many times since then, I have conversations with people, and I'm sure you do as well, and you felt this is such an important role in healing that music plays. Absolutely fundamental, that it can change the vibration from one moment to the next with what we're experiencing. Say, for example, if something quite deep is coming up within us, and a certain song that can assist that in coming forward and releasing it so powerfully. So I'd just like to sort of know your thoughts on that as well, and as you sort of help, as you create these songs, sort of the feelings that can come up with you as well as you're creating them that way. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, I mean, this question in itself is such a vast ocean to dip into. And
Yeah.
I imagine there's so many ways of answering it, from the more, perhaps the more scientific angle, which you can explore, of like resonance and frequencies and the sound healing kind of aspect of that. And I more and more just go on a very, like, don't even try to explain it or even understand it so much, and just go like, wow, I deeply bow to this force and this mysterious world that we call music and sound and song. It's almost like the not understanding it is even more amazing, or the not being able to understand it or really explain it. It gives that sense of awe that it really deserves. And it's, my experience simply is, it's like my language of my heart and my soul. Like, that's how I experience music when I create it, but also receiving music it's an experience that's kind of can bypass to a certain extent. We do sometimes listen to words and lyrics, and they mean something in our mental level, but we're receiving it from a deeper place in us. And I think if we look at the world and the cultures we live in and the lifestyles we live in and the busyness and the madness and the things that we have to do just on a day-to-day level to kind of function as a human being, which are actually so far away from what we would have been, how we would have been living our day-to-day lives, even just a few hundred years ago, or even 100 years ago, actually. It's so demanding to be a human being in this time, and so mental and so restricted, and there's so much trauma and wounding and oppression and all this stuff, you know. And music kind of is this universal space where that is not really relevant. It doesn't really have its voice in that space. And I think just that in its own, that aspect by itself is already healing. You know, the relief that our souls and our hearts must feel when we can just return to that kind of more mysterious, magical heart realm that is actually really who we are and is our nature. And music somehow just can bring us there in a very direct and, like you said, sometimes very, very fast way, and it can guide. It can guide our direction, especially in those like deep moments that we're going through. I think we will all have experienced soundtracks that that we can lean into, and in moments of our life, deep and also joyful. We'll all know those songs that just make us feel happy, you know, and have had experiences to those songs, or have taken us to that place just because it resonates. It's resonance.
Yeah, I think that's it. That journey that we can go on sometimes, the what would say the deeper moments, and then also providing the warm hug upon completion as well, the gentle energy coming in, and just that frequency which we were hearing more and more with music now, as well as more of a authentic frequency rather than some of the repetitive nature of some things that we've had, you know, of the words. And I think that's like through my experience, that's what I experienced, was like these words are, it's like they're speaking my life, they're speaking this moment. In absolute truth, they're not speaking a fantasy, they are speaking out. And I think you use the right word, they're very magical as well. Particularly with, it's only my sort of experience with a lot of your music as well, is particularly with the very gentle sort of feminine energy that comes in as well with that, with particular songs. And I feel like we've used them here a lot, played them a lot here at the Purple Mountain as well, during when we do cacao ceremonies and such. And just that gentle energy coming. I know one of Stephen's favourite is the rolls. You love the rolls, don't you?
And the Astro Dawn is amazing.
Oh, yes.
So.
Oh, wow.
Yes, we love the Astro Dawn. And that's why I actually wanted to mention, actually, it's something about collaboration, because a lot of your music I've listened to lately have been the collaborations that you've done. And so I'd be interested to know how they come about, and a little bit more about them.
Yeah, this is definitely a new chapter that has very naturally just emerged in this past year. Collaborations, not just for me, but I also, speaking with my friends who are musicians, which are often the people that I collaborate with, it's generally something that a lot of people are saying, like, wow, this time seems to be inviting more collaboration. And I see it like, you know, not just for musicians and people making music, but this time is literally saying, like, guys, you need to kind of get it, that you're in this together, and that we're one humanity, and this kind of literally weaving this web of strength between us, because we are together. It's such an illusion, this crazy modern world that we have of, you know, everyone in their little homes, and you don't even know the name of your neighbor. And it's just not our nature. We are tribal people, and in so many different ways. Even what you guys are doing here is like weaving webs and making connections, and how that's a resource for people. I just see that's what's happening with the music. And all the people that I've collaborated with are, so Astral Dawn is Adrian Friedman. He's an old friend since living in Devon, you know, maybe 10 years going back, and making music along the way together. And I have quite a few collaborations which are not released, that are on the way, and they're all either people that are good friends of mine already, or people that are great inspirations of mine, and we've found each other and gone like, hey, do you want to sing on one of my songs? And like, and then that person says, yeah, and I want you to sing on one of my songs. And we're doing like these musical trades, you know, no one's paying each other.
Wow.
We're just exchanging for this real joy of co-creating. And for me, it's one of the most inspiring things to do that, actually, and see what can be created through that, bringing two souls together. And because our voices and even the music we play, you know, Adrian with his shakuhachi is such an expression of his soul, and our voices, it's such an intimate part of ourselves to mix and paint together in these songs. So yeah, looking forward to more collaborations. And actually, my album, I know I don't actually want to talk too much about my album, but my album that's in the making is what was really one of my particular intentions. Like, I want loads of collaboration, and I'm invited. The album is very much about, it's the kind of the mother line and the feminine and the great mother. And so I've just invited all the women that I love, and there's many amazing women's voices on there. And yeah,
we're looking forward to hearing that. I'll be the first to download it and listen to it. Yeah.
yeah, I'm so reassured to hear that. I love that you love the Rose song, because it can be very easy as a woman, and then writing these songs which are very feminine and, you know, about femininity. And that doesn't just mean being a woman, but that's like the feminine energies. I don't know how that is for a man to receive that, and I'm sure that there are men that feel that they can't connect to it, or, you know, through basically their own wounding of living in a society where men are expected to just disconnect from their femininity entirely. And that I find that very, very beautiful, that it can touch the heart of man and actually be a healing force for the masculine to embrace that femininity. Because ultimately, you know, the bigger prayer is like, look at humanity. Like, if we can't, all of us, find that balance inside of ourselves, women as well, there's many women who are totally disconnected from the feminine qualities, or disconnected from the masculine quality, like can go both extremes, and this balance that is being asked of. So I actually, I'm really grateful that you love the Rose song. I think I remember I think you're maybe the first man to ever tell me that, and I was like, I couldn't believe it, that song was also touching men's lives and hearts. And yeah, I hope this album can also do that.
It will do that. It will do that. It's just really exciting. And I love the fact that, you know, you're collaborating, you're spreading the light. I think, if anything, we're in this time of remembrance, people remembering who they are, and they're stepping into their authenticity. And music's part of that key to awaken that magical side that's within all of us, that inner child, that playful side. And I'm super excited. And, you know, you open the doors and the people that you connect with. But I want to sort of ask you, Ayla, that I know that you're so passionate about music, and like we said before, it'd be too easy to step into the music side. What other kind of work are you involved in? I know music's a very important part. Are you involved in any sort of healing circles? What other kind of work are you doing and getting up to?
Well, being a mother.
How was that?
That is actually the first thing that comes to me when you ask me that. Since being a mother, I actually have kind of stepped back from other, you know, I used to be more part of healing circles in their various ways that can be, and kind of different kinds of events that maybe music might somehow be a part of. And since being a mother, just simply limited on time and energy, and have kind of allowed myself to just really focus on that. That's music is my, I don't know if you can hear that sheep. There's lambs right outside the door. And saying that I have been, inspired to focus more deeply on what is the spaces that I can offer to other people. So not just sharing music, but holding space for people to explore, whether it be their own voice, or I have this whole work that's for women and connected with the womb, which can go very vast and wide, like the voice work does. It's music and it's voice, but our voice is connected to that great vast ocean of ourself, and so intimately woven with our traumas and our life experiences and our stories. So it becomes some kind of therapeutic work of its own. And I personally have been these past few years very, very deeply in my own kind of healing process and learning a lot about the nervous system, and really taking time to understand in a very deep way my journey as a human being, and then kind of integrating that into wanting to offer those kind of spaces that are connected to music, but also much vaster and wider than just sound itself.
It's really interesting that you mentioned that. Well, all of it really, particularly with the nervous system as well, because I feel a lot of us have been experiencing that, particularly the last 12 months, releasing through the nervous system and particularly feeling certain things. But the other part I picked up on just when you mentioned about, your role as a mother and having to step back from certain things is this work, or whatever name we want to put upon it, whatever we do, it's important. And it's something me and Stephen were talking about earlier, not to get, in a way, over obligated, that we do have other parts to our life as well, and other chapters, and not to feel bad or guilty in any way for stepping away from that, because we're on another chapter and we might come back to that at some point. And it's something we've experienced a little bit at the Purple Mountain, and then we've come back to ourselves and gone, well, what are we really happy with? So I think that's really important, that flow of saying, well, this is my role. This is what's happening at the moment for me. This is what's life's bringing in, and allowing that to flow as well. So it was nice to hear. Yeah. And I feel that I see that sometimes of the pressure. I'm not saying you've done this, but the pressure that we can place upon ourselves to be doing a certain, well, this is what I should be doing all the time because that's what I do. Well, no, but there's other parts to life. There's other parts to our experience as well, and that's being brought to us.
I absolutely have done that, and I probably still do. I mean, we're literally trained to think in that way, aren't we? And to prioritize achievement and productivity, and there can be such a slippery one, because when we're doing something that we really love and we really believe in it and believe that it's our offering for the world and it's good for people, we can get a bit like, it's almost like it's got a mask, like the same game is just wearing a different mask, and we're like killing ourselves and getting ill and not looking after ourselves, not really being resourced because we're in service, which we are, but it's so related to how I often see it like our relationship as humanity with the earth, like take, and it doesn't really occur to us that at some point that's just not sustainable. And we treat our own bodies and our own selves like that. So if we are not, it's the oxygen, the life mask first thing, isn't it? Like that is the great thing I learned being a mother. And I did actually get chronically ill, and it took me chronic illness to really at least begin to shift that pattern of self-resourcing and preservation, and what is actually my capacity right now. And if I take care of that, I can be of the greater service in a sustainable way and in a deeper. I feel like our work will go deeper when we are like rooted in ourselves.
It's that inner work, isn't it? It's the inner reflection, time to receive. You know, we always have to take that moment, and like you said, a lot of us in the work that we do, we feel we have to sacrifice, but it's old programming. It's trying to deprogramming our mind and taking a step back. But do you find that nature has played an important part of your healing? I know that every time, you know, when we speak to you, you're very connected to nature. Is nature being a very important part of the self-healing process for yourself?
100%, 500%, 1000%. I simply can't. I feel I'm a bit like a fish if taking me out of water. Like if you take me out of nature, I wither quite quickly. It's fundamental to my well-being. And actually, since moving here where we live on Dartmoor, we moved here about 2.5 years ago, and we moved here like in the deepest moment of my journey with chronic fatigue, and I was just struggling. Wow, like really not well in all of my bodies, mentally, emotionally, physically. It was a very, very difficult moment, and there's been many aspects to that particular part of my healing, which is a part of which is part of a much bigger, you know, it's my life, really, my life healing. But living here on this land has been a big part of that, because the spirit of the land here is it's just very alive. We found a very special place where there's still ancient forests and rivers and wild horses and big open moorland and sacred sites, you know, like Neolithic sacred site very close to our house. So nature is us, really. We are nature, and it's like plugging into the great mother.
Oh, definitely, yeah. It's a lot of things that are happening in the world now. It's helping us, reminding us the importance of our divine connection, not just with the stars, but with the divine mother, you know, the Mother Earth, and stepping back into nature. And definitely. But I just wanted to ask you sort of a different question regarding to that. Is what kind of, because there'll be people listening here and they will look up for great inspiration from you, Ayla, not just from your music, but also into your own personal growth and the stories you share. And because I think it's just showing to people that we're all human, we're all one. No matter what kind of spiritual work that we're doing it in our own way, but also we need to receive, we need to take that time off. But what's the kind of things do you do to switch off? You talk about the importance of your family and nature, and obviously that's been very, very important. But what kind of things do you switch off from the world? Because we do live in a very, very strange time, an amazing time to be alive, great things that are happening, good, all things good in our own way. But how do you navigate through social media, what's happening in the world? Do you go back to sort of your family and your music? What's the kind of practices do you do to help you navigate through the madness of the world?
Definitely the being in nature is probably the number one. Like as much time as I can be outside, and I do feel very privileged to be able to live in a place like this, because I know that's just not possible for so many people for various reasons, financially or work related, or, you know, the circumstances of that. So for me to just be in the nature is the kind of number one go-to. Or my garden. I love growing seeds. I just held a really big online workshop this weekend, and it was a lot for me, you know, nervous system wise. And the next morning I was so exhausted, and I was just like, I need to go in the garden. It was like I had to go in the earth, and the sun was shining, so it helped. But, you know, receiving the element, like physical element connection, growing food and planting seeds and tending to it, and kind of I feel for me, anything that has this kind of timeless ancient way, which we would have been doing and our ancestors have been doing for so long, and whether that's just sitting by a river or going for a walk or sowing seeds and watering it or sitting by the fire. Like, we live in a house where it's only heated by fire, and it's such a simple thing that's actually has to be done in the winter. You know, it's like you're spending all day tending to that fire, but it's actually resourcing me. And I feel that almost anything that is gives us a space from technology is probably nourishing, you know, that balance. And we're all juggling that, like the biggest addiction that humanity has ever faced, of our phones and technology and social media. That discipline with that, I mean, being a mother, it becomes easier to be disciplined because you simply can't, you know, you have the time of like, oh, I'm bored and like, let me just do this. It's like, I don't experience boredom. My time is so limited that I have to be very refined with it. But this is one of the biggest gifts. If we can just be really honest with ourselves of our relationship with technology and choose to come really as much as possible to the natural world. And that doesn't mean you have to live in the middle of nature. I think you can find that natural world just in your own body, and making space for stillness is very important for me. Making space to sit with my altar and be in prayer and speak with the spirits that I work with at my altar, to be in ceremony with myself in very simple ways, you know, to go do little rituals and make offerings and consciously make space and time to feel the presence of the greater forces of life. That could be going outside, but that's also just often, if I can resource myself with that. And I don't manage it every day. I always say every day, Ayla, even if it's 2 minutes, and you know, and I so often don't. And it's again and again, you know, we come back again and again and again, and we get distracted and we lose our balance and we realize we're exhausted and we need more self-care. And being in the body, you know, is the other one. Making sure I exercise, my yoga, and when I'm not big and round and pregnant, I do things like run and go work out and really kind of be in this vessel and move it and breathe and sweat and feel and stretch and release through the physical dance.
It's stopping, I think, the big thing there, and it's something me and Chris are always reminded of, is just, it's okay to stop and look within and take heed, look within, connect with your beautiful temple, this physical body. I had that in a beautiful ceremony a while ago, where I was just reminded of connecting with my physical body, loving myself. We always on that wheel of give and learning just to step back and stopping and looking at what you're putting in your body and looking at what you're drinking and loving yourself. I think that's a big thing that we're all being reminded of at the moment, I think, as well. And what you like with like nutrition, do you grow a lot of your own food then?
We try to, but I live on Dartmoor.
Is it very windy? Where is Dartmoor? What county is it?
Devon.
Oh, Devon. Wonderful.
South of England. It's basically its own microclimate. So it's classified as temperate rainforests. You know, the patches of forest, which are very few now. I point over there because there's literally one next to where I live. So it's damp and it's slightly colder. So we try to grow a lot of our own food, and it's in last year, for example, was really not that successful. But I'm quite vigilant about, you know, organic and healthy, and I do take good care, and my body really demands of it. I simply can't. It just doesn't work for me to not eat well and take care through my body and be really nourished.
It's very, very important, isn't it, in the nutrition side? And we know that, you know, we are what we eat, and what you put in your body affects your mental health as well. You know, what's going on in the brain, the gut and the mind and the nervous system. and it all's all connected, all helping us to remember we are one with the earth, and the exercise and spending time in nature, the water, and what we are willing. I mean, you talked about that in the last podcast, I think. You know, we go to the forest and we go to the land, and we seem to take what we want, but learning to give back as well, whatever that might be, is that we've got to learn as humans, or remember, because we know the natural state is to give back to the earth. And I think a lot of people are becoming a lot more mindful of not just taking, but also giving back as well. I feel anyway. So go on, Chris. You were going to say something?
No, but I was. It's very strange that you must have been reading my mind, Stephen, because I was taken back, and something that really stayed with me from the last podcast we did, is where you mentioned going to the water and actually showing gratitude for what you'd been able to receive from the water, and it really stayed with me, that thought. It was very provoking. And I live like 5 minutes here from the sea, so I go for a lot of walks on the beachfront, and I really kept that in mind. And I thought, how many times have I been up here when I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed, or something's going on and I've needed to receive? And how many times have I come back and actually, when I'm good, and actually said, it showed gratitude for that. And I thought, right, well, I'm going to change that. So it really had an impact on me. And I think just by sharing those little things, it just makes you think, and you're like, oh yeah, it's not all about when we need to receive. It's about being grateful as well, that we are able to in that space, and that we have that, sometimes so quickly in this world, many can mention what they don't have, when look what we do have. It's a bit of a wacky time in this country, to say the least, but it's got great gifts to offer as well. I mean, we traveled for the first time we went to Avebury last year to the Stone Circle, and we went down to Glastonbury for the first time ever, and we made lots of little stops and stopped along the Cotswolds on the way back, and it was just beautiful land that is so quickly you can forget, that's right on our doorstep.
Yeah, just about this, like the bringing the offerings to the water, which I imagine was what I was speaking about.
Yeah,
this is a really simple thing that everybody can do. I learned from a teacher a long time ago to always, when I go out for a walk, always take with me a little pouch, like whatever you want to call it. I think she called it like a medicine pouch. And I've even made one for my son, so it's always got, we put like whatever is in there. Sometimes it's just oats and seeds from the kitchen, or we go around and harvest little things. You give us something, and then you take some of the seeds and the rowan berries or whatever, and it's like a little magical pot in your bag of things that you've gathered, and crystals and shells. And that's always in my pocket, or on my some just hang it around me, or on my coat. And every time I go for a walk, sometimes I forget. I must confess, sometimes I do go for a walk and go, I forgot to do it. But pretty much every single time I'll take, at some point, even if it's just 5 seconds, or sometimes it's half an hour because I have more space and more time, to really just give an offering. And sometimes the giving comes with the asking, but there's still always this action of giving to the land and to the spirits and to the water and to whatever it is that I'm connecting to in that moment. And this is just such a simple, beautiful thing that everybody can do. And even if you live in a city and all you have is the trees in the street that come through their little hole in the concrete, you can give something to that tree. You'll always find something. You can give to the air. We will always find a place of connection, and it's cultivating that reciprocity and living that, and kind of actively engaging in that living relationship with how we speak, but also this act is very tangible. And as you see, like that's all part of, if you look at all rituals, there's always this kind of active something that happens. Like offerings are a big part of most traditions and most rituals, and even in our modern day culture, like marriage or birthdays, the give the act of
Mhm.
giving and the symbolism in the gifts and is part of our nature, really.
Yeah, and I know from so many of your songs actually mention the water. I know a lot you know, mention Mother Earth and such, but the water is particularly seems like a quite a strong thread
Mm,
through a lot of the songs as well.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I have one more song on its way that was part of an EP that is not actually the release yet, the EP, but all my last songs were specifically water songs.
yeah,
And I don't know if it's that I have a stronger, I mean, yeah, of course I love the water and I have my relationship with the water, but the water is so metaphorically it's such a good metaphor for just so much, and
yeah,
you know, our relationship with trust and surrender and letting go and release and allowing, and the medicine of water. I mean, really, she's just a living force that we are more water than anything else in our bodies, aren't we? So it's actually who we are as well, is that water. She's part of us.
It's just
yeah,
connecting. It's connecting to the elements again, isn't it? There's a lot of that when we talk about nature, the element of fire, the sun, the air, the breath, you know, the earth, and the water that is within us. We've got those elements within us, and as we, you know, look within, those elements vibrate through the physical body. But I want to just move on the conversation a little bit about, because you're a mother now, Ayla. Now, is it how old is it? Your son? Did you say how old's your son now?
He's 6.
Wow, amazing. So you talk about being a mother, and you know you've got another beautiful light coming back to the earth. And how far are you away from the birth? A few weeks or months?
It's 6 weeks until the due date.
Wow,
Let's see.
it might be
Immi-
early or
it's,
late. You never
it's
know.
imminent.
So obviously, with all your teachings and your journey, and you want to empower, protect your children as well of a way of living a natural life. So how was the birth then? The birthing side. There's been a lot of conversations about birthing trauma, and particularly in females. And sort of what's your take on sort of the birthing trauma side? Obviously, you talk about trauma earlier on and how you can navigate through that as a woman, as a mother. I don't know what your thoughts on that was.
A lot of thoughts on this. My experience of giving birth and also pregnancy and birthing myself as a mother, you know, certainly these are the more early years, the first years of experiencing motherhood, was like a huge activation of all my unresolved trauma and wounding, just like, you know, grabbed from the bottom of me and shaken and shaken and shaken with this little being, you know, this blessing of new life, this human being who's basically here going like, I need you, mummy, to work with this and heal this and resolve those old threads that have just been tangled and passed down generations and generations, and to do your part of it, and also not to put too much pressure. You know, I don't think that any of us have the responsibility to do it all in our lifetime, because it's just too much, especially when we're
Yeah.
dealing with so many generations where that any level of kind of conscious healing work was just simply not available to them. You know, they didn't have the resources or the tools or the therapists or even the language. I mean, they weren't allowed basically to feel, you know, really relatively. Our parents and our grandparents pretty much come from a very different generation. We are
Yeah.
in this generation where it's becoming not weird, you know, to use the word healing, or like Chris, you said, the nervous system. Suddenly people are talking about the nervous system in this
Yeah.
past relatively recently, even a few years ago, it was like we spoke about healing, but yeah, we are deepening collectively with it. And I'm happy to say with this pregnancy I'm experiencing now, it's been much softer on me. But I went really through the fire, and in birth itself, I was meeting intense patterns of disassociation for about 30 hours of that birth, and had no idea what was going on. I mean, I'd never given birth, so it was also quite overwhelming, not able to compare it, but it's taken me years to unravel that and begin to understand, like, wow, why has no one ever spoken to me about the fact that just giving birth, it can be a huge activation of unresolved trauma, and that we can go into states of our patterns of trauma response. And of course the conventional support that's offered us is incredibly limited, and just has no, doesn't really acknowledge that you are a human being with all of that happening. It's more like you are a body machine and you're going to get that baby out.
Yeah.
It's so delicate, and culturally we just don't speak about birth. I'm finding it amazing you've asked me this question. Actually, it's just not a conversation that is, it's one of the like don't go to subjects, like post-Victorian era, don't speak too much about sex or like menstruation or birth, or just we still have echoes of what we're allowed to speak about and what we're not allowed to speak about. And most people, they give birth and then it's like they probably never ever speak about it to anybody, and no one ever's going to ask. And it's probably one of the biggest things a woman will ever go through, no matter if it's been a positive experience or a traumatic experience. My experience was positive ultimately, but it was it's taken me years to gently untangle and begin to understand, and then approach this birth in a very different way, because I can hold that space, and also call in the resource that I need to hold that space for what might come up, and trust more the medicine and the opportunity of such profound healing that birth brings, and that our children bring us. I think any parent will know that one, these great teachers.
Oh yeah, I always say to parents in readings, we do a lot of one-to-one readings. I say our children are our greatest teachers. They are there to teach us, and they do indeed, don't they? I think it's absolutely amazing. It's something, even as a man, we do a lot of channelings at the Purple Mountain. It's something that I feel, in a way, not frightened to talk about, even as a man, of seeing. We deal with a lot of female clients, and we do a lot of one-to-ones, and I see more and more of the effects of birthing trauma and being very taboo. And even as a man, I feel that very strange, why there's not more conversations on things like the depression that can come from giving birth, and the rejections and the unhealed traumas, and the traumas that with cesareans that happen, that are pushed more and more, where there is an unnatural birth. Even I was taken back even as a baby, where I'll remember being a very large baby, and this come out in a ceremony, and I remember being pulled and yanked, and I remember that sort of aggressive birthing side, and I ripped my mother, and she was telling me how it was traumatic, and a lot of it wasn't talked about, because but yet in the ancient tribes you would have birthing midwives that would bring the soul through. It was just so different, and I would love, even as a bloke, to see, as a man, to see that back, to bring that sense of community, that birthing side, so that it can prepare women to navigate through, and not having to go through that trauma and that constant trauma that's passed on and passed on. I feel incredibly passionate that we should be having more of these conversations, because look at your experience, but I know it's part of life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it?
Wow. Yeah, and I liked what you shared, Stephen, of it's actually these conversations has helped you personally follow the threads within yourself connected to your birth and connected to your mother's experience. And so it's to really acknowledge that the experience that our mother has in pregnancy and in birth and in mothering becomes our experience, and we carry that in our way of how that impacted us. So it's incredibly relevant for men as much as it is for women, because we all were given birth to, we all came from a woman and had a mother and had all the infinite experiences that can come with that. And that's kind of the ultimate. There's a phrase, isn't there, of like the first what do they say, but something about the the first trauma we experience in this incarnation is birth. And actually I would say that's not true. It's already in gestation. We are experiencing what we're experiencing inside of our mother's womb, and
Yeah.
it's very good, deep, difficult work to go back that far.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point. Is it's the same for all of us, because when something can come up, it can come up from when we're being sort of carried by our mothers in situations that could be occurring here as well, and that have impacted us in some way, shape, or form. And sort of tracing that back sometimes can give a great deal of clarity as well.
And beyond our mothers, I mean, there's amazing
Yeah.
research being done, isn't there, on epigenetics and how trauma literally is just passed on through the cellular memory, through the DNA. I mean, this is fascinating and terrifying at the same time, because
It is.
all of those people and all that awful stuff they experience is in me, and I experience that, and somehow have the opportunity, if I choose to take that work on, to go and heal back. And this is it's big, very big stuff.
I think one of the big things for me is just talking about. I find that a lot of trauma, what it needs a voice. It needs to express. We need to give it a voice. We need to talk about it, coming together in circles, if that's a woman circle, a man circle, or just in a healing circle, just coming together really, I think, is half the battle won, if you will. Just talking about it, just having these conversations, that's often what trauma needs, is to express it. And sometimes, talk about your music, you express it through music, I express mine through poetry and writing. And I've just started, me and Chris just started our guitar. We're starting to play guitar, and that is
We've got very sore
scary.
fingers.
Yeah.
Our fingers are a little bit too tender yet. They're going to be.
I've been doing guitar for over a year, and it brings up this anxiety, and I know where it comes from, but it's just tapping into things that are unhealed. But it feels scary. But once we give it a voice and express it, thinking, oh, why was I so scared about that? Why was I so frightened? I feel better now talking about it and feeling it. So I think this birthing thing, I think we'll have to do a whole other podcast on and talking about it, because I think I feel from spirit there is a lot more of that work to come. I really do. We need more birthing circles, more birthing. What's going on. We need to get back. I watched a documentary a few years ago, and it was an African documentary, and they were talking about breastfeeding, that actually the grandparents' roles are just as important, because the mother would go out to work and the grandmother would breastfeed the child.
Wow.
I think we've got such a disconnection with our community, so separate, and actually the grandmother's role is so important to that child's development, not just the mother, and the connection and how they are part of that community. I think we need to get back into that natural state. I really do.
Our village, yes, we need our village. And we're finding ways in our modern reality to create that, aren't we? And it sounds like you guys, are creating some sense of village. It's this web weaving that we spoke about at the beginning. Without it, we're just bereft of something, and we know it, but we don't know it, and we try and fill that empty space with, village, social media village, and having followers, and some sense of belonging to something, and having a place, and being approved of. But it's like a never ending, insatiable appetite. We will never fulfill actually what we're longing for, which is something so much deeper than that. Our village, not just our human village, but our animal village, and our plant village, and our place. There's this beautiful old English word. Have you heard of this word? Kith. So it's related to kin. We know what our kin is. Our kith would have been like the land version of our kin, like the sense of place where our soul just absolutely belongs, and where we feel just loved and welcome. The kith, this deep sense of belonging, and being held, and being part of something that has meaning to us.
Yeah, I don't
The
think
Egyptians. So I just want to just remember, Chris, when we went to Egypt a couple of times, and I remember them telling us how the farmers in Egypt lived, that they would have the animals that lived in the home with the people, because they said that the animals are just as important, even more important, because they're the ones that cultivate the lands. They're the ones that bring up the dirt so that they can plant the seeds ready for the harvest. The animals are treated actually better than the children because of their connection. I think we've got so much more to learn and to remember, where we look at these cultures, we look at these people in a third world, and I think we've got a lot to learn and to remember. And I think the word that came to me is human beings. We're very good at avoiding what's really important, and we attach ourselves to the illusions of superficial things that we think is going to solve us. And that's why we're always ready for the next thing, and actually we don't really concentrate on the things that really nourish us. Things like gardening, and being with friends, and being with the family and the community and the tribe. And bring back the tribe, bring back the community, I say, Ayla.
Absolutely with you.
Yeah, I think it absolutely can't be underestimated coming together. And a little earlier when you were talking about that, taking time out, taking time for silence, and something that I've really thought upon, particularly last year, keeps coming to me that intensity doesn't always equal results. And I think about a year and a half ago, we actually went on a men's retreat. First one we ever went on. It was up in the Lake District, and we really felt like fish out of water. It was a good step out for us. But you get you as we sat around this fire, so many, all ages, from grandfathers, fathers, sons. There was from all walks of life. But as we were sharing those similar feelings, of the feeling of just stepping out and allowing ourselves time to just sit around a fire, to chat, to share our experiences, to share our stories. And on occasion, in the things we do, and I see elsewhere, that sometimes we can be, I see people a little bit afraid to be in groups. They'll say, "Oh, I'm sat with strangers." And the first thing I'll always say to them is, I understand if it's not for you, but you'll be surprised what you hold in common with people when you get sat and start talking. You'll see that people have walked a similar path in a different way and go, "Oh," and that's nice. It can make you feel like, well, it's not just me. It's not just me here. We're all feeling it, and we're all in it together as well. So I think that coming together, which you're seeing more and more, these circles are happening more and more everywhere, and all of them connecting with nature as well.
And so many circles stepping away from the like prescribed societal way of getting together, which generally is going to involve alcohol,
Yes.
possibly drugs, probably smoking, probably a lot of sugar as well. Like if you look at our, like, all our cultural celebrations that the few that we have left from our traditional ancient ways, like Christmas and Easter, it's like we're basically feeding the deep addictions of humanity, like sugar, alcohol, and some kind of drug of some. Well, sugar is also a drug. And what's beautiful to see that people are just going like, this is not working for me. It's just growing, these alcohol-free events and drug-free events and festivals of, none of that, because people are getting it. We are more connected than we maybe even realize, as a mass. Can't shut that down.
Yeah,
Never.
something I always say, I think with anything, the sort of proof's in the pudding, in it. So it's the feeling of what I've felt myself and seen with friends and people I connect with is as they step away from maybe not going to places and not having alcohol, and then they're going to alternative where they're connecting with people and having more nourishing things, and then waking up in the morning not with an awful headache and feeling drained and feeling ill, but they're actually feeling full of energy and they're up at the crack of dawn. And you hear that so often, and I'm hearing it more and more from people younger than myself. It's
Yeah.
quite inspiring to see now people don't have that pressure around that a certain age, when you sort of coming of age, to go out and get absolutely drunk. That you don't have to do that. And the thing is, what I hear a lot more is, I don't want to wake up feeling like crap over my weekend. I want to wake up early. I want to feel good. I want to be at my full energy. I don't want to feel lethargic. So I think people, by experiencing that, are witnessing. It's like we're coming out of a cycle of that. Is the way I see it. And that's why more and more these, wonderful alternatives. One that stands out to me straight away is the cacao as well, the cacao ceremonies, and we were beginning to hold a lot of those coming out of sort of 2021. And I remember people were so grateful to be able to dance because all the nightclubs have been shut, and that's the places they were dancing, and the pubs. And they were like, oh my God, I could come here and dance to this wonderful music and I can express myself and I feel wonderful. And, I'm not stumbling into a taxi at the end of the night as well. I've got... So it's a
I've
bonus.
never done that.
He has. Definitely has.
It's really connection. It's, as you're talking, I'm just feeling like it's moving away from that era where everything's about disconnection, like getting drunk and not feeling and numbing ourselves, whether that's with our sugars or our phones or whatever. Now, like, disconnection is just not going to be fulfilling. Like, long term, it creates literally sickness. I mean, people are so sick, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And that longing for connection, like you say, like a cacao ceremony, it's not only, oh great, I get to get in my car at the end of the evening and I get to dance without spending loads of money in the pub or whatever, but it's actually like, I think I feel better. And why do I feel better? Because it's cultivating connection with one another, with some greater sense of spirit, and ultimately with ourself, which without connection to ourselves, what is our life then? What is our experience of our life? And connection, as we know, and as you guys definitely know, and you'll see that also in things like cacao ceremonies, connection isn't always just easy and beautiful. And that's why we sometimes want to go in the other direction, because it's hard to then have to meet what we need to feel, which is a lot of stuff. Pretty much everybody will have the painful and the griefful. I mean, I think everybody, I don't think there's anyone who doesn't. I don't believe there's anybody who doesn't have things to feel that are difficult. But ultimately, it's very beautiful if we can do that in a safe way and with our village and not alone, where it brings us too, that path. And it's not even a destination. It's not even about if I do this and then, you know, we all begin our healing process going like, I'm going to get there at some point. You know, we think that it's kind of like, if I do this, then at some point I'll have done it and I'll be healed and it will be finished. And
Yeah,
then like,
I've been there.
20 years in going like, no, this is a path of just continuous revelation and deepening and expansion and understanding and freedom and coming home, which is a kind of eternal place anyway.
Yeah, I think that as the dance and the movement, I find so important as well. I feel that can bring a lot up for us, and sometimes there are times to rest the body to sleep. But I find in moving that stagnant energy, just the movement of the body, and I've seen it where it can bring a lot up for people. I felt it myself, where we stand up and we might go back to that memory of the school disco where people laughed at us or something like that, or not being able to just express our bodies and to be free. And when we start stepping out of that, the tension it can release from the body is immense. I feel it really is, and it can be a great way with communicating with one another as well. And it often in our cacao ceremonies we don't speak to one another once it starts, but I always say there's other ways of communicating. The way we're all sort of dancing and the movement in the room, we are communicating. We are together in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's incredible stuff. I just wanted to come back a little bit, just to some of your music here, and just the collaborations we talked about as well. I think there might be more than one, probably is, but I liked your collaboration as well with Murray Kyle as well. I'd really love all that. But how does that sort of work, as in the creation of the song? How's that put together? When you sort of get in a room, can that be challenging sometimes? You know, because we all have, like you said, we have ideal scenarios, don't we? Or where we go, oh, this is. But how does that work when we're there in that space?
Well, nowadays it's all done remotely. So
Oh yeah,
Murray,
course.
in that in that creation process of that song, we're never actually in the same room together, and we didn't actually sing, you know, like
Oh
together
yeah,
at the same moment until we were at last year. He was touring Europe, so he was at quite a few of the English festivals. And then we were like, hey, let's go on stage and sing this song live. You know, the first time ever actually singing it together. I mean, I feel blessed with and probably have also chosen, you know, intentionally people that there's just a resonance there with. For example, that recording with Murray was just pure pleasure to create. And there's the bit in the song when he sings, he steps forward as the main vocal, and that was totally his. I can't remember actually what I said to him, but somehow he came forward with this bit that he'd written, and I was just like, yeah, sure. And that's the beauty of the kind of creative magic, that when it's flowing, it's just happening and you can't explain. And I imagine the opposite can very easily happen. When it's not flowing, it's going to be incredibly unenjoyable, and it's probably not going to make you're not going to feel it in the music. So I've only had very positive experiences, and it's, again, I just feel in awe of what is that force of music. I do believe each song also has a spirit. There's a spirit that's in charge. Like the song itself is a kind of being, and it knows who it wants to be and how it wants to come into the world. And actually we as the artists and the musicians are more in service of this greater force, in making ourselves available for that to come through. And how do you want to come through? And we, from my experience, I'm like, something lets me know, even if it's just my own intuition lets me know when I'm not on the right track. It just doesn't feel right. You know, you just feel like, and when it just goes and opens up and you go, okay, And I so many times have recorded something and I get to the end of that can be a long process, and I'll be like, wow, I was not expecting the song to end up like this. Like, that wasn't my idea. The song takes its own, I guess it's a bit like a child, compare it to a child. Like, they very much need us at the beginning. They need us to be birthed. They need a vessel to come through. They need to be very carefully tended to in those early years and fed and nourished so that they kind of grow strong. And then at some point, they're just like, I can take over now. I'm ready to go out there in the world. I just need you to put, a good coat on me and dress me up and resource me, and then I can go and do my thing, and you're not really required anymore.
Wow, I think it's great. I love it. I love the way you describe. But there was is there I don't know if I've got this name right. Was there a lady called Susie Rue or yeah? I've listened to and I love some of the stuff that you've done together there as well. I think you did. Was it the water song you did together?
Like the River. Cool.
Yeah. It was beautiful. That and both your voices so different, and it's really nice to hear. Great question, Chris, because when you listen to artists, and it's interesting how because you think, oh, you press a few buttons and you sing together, and actually there's a lot more. And I love your explanation of how the birth and each song, because when you sit there and you're journeying or you're meditating, it does activates different frequencies in your cells with the words and the music and the tones. Yeah, so really fascinating.
And it's quite exciting for us as the listener, because as you're looking through and you see this, and there does seem to be more and more collaborations at the minute. Generally, I'm just seeing it more and more, like 3 or 4 artists on somebody, like, wow, I have to listen to this immediately. This is going to be incredible what's brought together. It's quite exciting.
Yeah, it's a thing that's happening, definitely, amongst the global artist world. It's the time. It's the time asking for that.
And what I love as well is where we have opportunity to sort of have a live version as well of the songs, and I feel they bring their own sort of rawness in a way as well. Yeah, it's amazing stuff. So really look forward to all the collaborations to come as well. We're awaiting. But I just want to thank you so much, Ayla, for sharing this time. You would not believe we've been basically like pen pals for about a month, haven't we, trying to organise.
I think it's been longer, actually.
Yeah, I think so. But it's going to get there. It's going to get where it needs to be, everything in its time. But we really appreciate you sharing your time with us. Feels like we've covered some very important subjects in a way, and really for anybody, I'm sure everybody listening will be very familiar with your music, but if they aren't, please give it a listen. Really, really do, particularly on your healing journey. We talked about playing certain songs at the Purple Mount, but also individually with myself and Stephen, we have our own songs that we're sort of drawn to on our healing journey in our quiet time, that will just place on and play. So we're very grateful, not just to yourself, but all of those who carry songs and share this music as well. It is very important for the world right now as well.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Beautiful to be here.
So thank you so much, and thank you everybody who's listened, who's joined us in this conversation. If you have something you want to share, please comment on and share this video with friends where possible. Thank you for your support. Until we speak again, just want to send everybody lots of love and say goodbye for now.
Bye.
Bye.